All right, today we're diving into an idea that could completely flip the script on how we learn. What if, instead of just you and a textbook, you had an entire team of AI agents working as your personal study coach? Let's dig in and see how this whole thing actually works. So, let's start with a question that I think every single one of us has asked at some point. With all this incredible technology we have, why is studying still so frustrating? You know the drill. You spend hours with books, flashcards, videos, but how much of that stuff actually sticks? And how much of that time is really, truly productive? Well, the big idea we're digging into today points a finger at one main enemy: the one-size-fits-all approach to learning. It's this old school assumption that one textbook, one lecture, or one study guide is gonna work for everybody. But we all know that's not how it works, right? We all learn differently. All right, let's really get into it. In this first part, we're going to tear down exactly why these old school methods just don't cut it for so many of us. I mean, think about it, right? A generic study guide can't adapt to your personal pace. It can't speed up when you're flying through a topic, and it definitely won't slow down when you're hitting a wall. It has no idea what your specific weaknesses are, and honestly, it often just encourages cramming, which we all know is just terrible for long-term memory. The end result? A ton of wasted time and effort, where you're either going over stuff you already know or using a method that just doesn't click for you. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the fix? Well, this brings us to a really cool new concept: a smarter, adaptive study coach that's powered by AI and designed to solve these exact problems. And here it is, the adaptive study coach. The key words you want to lock onto here are multi-agent and personal study experience. This is not just another study app, okay? This is a whole system built from the ground up to understand your unique learning style and build a custom-made educational path just for you. So how does it actually do all this cool stuff? Well, instead of giving you a generic plan, it builds one that's personalized. It doesn't just throw information at you. It pulls you into these little micro-tutoring sessions. And to make sure you actually remember what you learn, it schedules reviews based on the proven science of spaced repetition. But the most important part? It's always watching, always tracking, and always adapting to how you're doing, literally in real time. Okay, now this is where things get really cool. This system isn't just one single monolithic AI. It's an entire team of specialists all working together for you. And this is the absolute core of the idea. So think of it less like a single genius professor and more like your own personal success team for your brain, where every member is a specialist with one specific job to do. It's that coordination that makes the whole thing so powerful. So let's meet the crew, shall we? First up, you've got the planner agent. That's your strategist, the one mapping out your entire learning journey. Then you have the tutor agent, who's the expert teacher actually delivering the lessons. The scheduler agent is your organizer, making sure you review topics at the perfect time to make them stick. Then there's the evaluator agent, your progress tracker, who's constantly checking how you're doing. And holding it all together is the memory bank, the central brain of the operation, remembering every single detail about how you learn. All right, so we've met the team, but how do they all play together? Well, their whole collaboration happens in this slick, continuous, 5-step learning loop. It all kicks off with step 1, plan. The planner agent looks at what you need to learn and whips up a custom plan. Simple enough. Then we're right into step 2, learn. The tutor agent jumps in and gives you a focused, bite-sized micro lesson on the first topic. Could be a quick question, a short explanation, whatever you need. And right after that interaction, we hit step 3, remember. Everything about how you did, were you fast, were you accurate, it all gets instantly saved in the memory bank. This is huge because it's where the system is actually learning about you. That new info immediately feeds into step 4, revise. The scheduler agent sees you struggled a bit, so it automatically schedules a review for that topic in a few days, right at that critical moment you might start to forget it. And that brings us to the final piece, step 5, assess. The evaluator agent looks at all your progress so far and tells the planner to tweak the entire study plan based on that new data. And then what happens? The whole loop starts all over again, but this time it's even smarter, even more personalized. It's a cycle of constant improvement. Okay, so we've seen the problem and this really cool, kind of complex AI solution. But what does this all actually mean for you, the person who's just trying to learn something? Let's tie it all together. I mean, this slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? Traditional studying is totally generic. The adaptive coach is completely tailored to you. It takes learning from this passive, low-efficiency chore and turns it into an active, high-efficiency process where you're constantly engaged. You're moving from just trying to absorb information to actively building real, long-term knowledge. So if you remember one thing from all this, it should be this. We are seeing a massive shift away from one-size-fits-all and toward one-size-fits-one. This isn't just about making studying a little bit easier. It's about making it fundamentally better by treating every single person as the individual learner they are. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. This team-based AI approach is a game changer for learning, for sure. But if AI can build you a perfect personalized study plan, what about a personalized fitness plan, or a personalized financial plan, or even a personalized career path? What other parts of our lives are just waiting to make that jump from one-size-fits-all to one-size-fits-one? That's something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.
Understand the one thing that truly matters, how you learn. So let's get into it.
Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever been there? You spend hours, maybe even all night, cramming for a test. You feel like you've put in the work, but the results just aren't there. It's super frustrating, right? And it really points to a bigger problem with how we're taught to study. And that right there, that's the heart of the problem. For way too long, education has kind of felt like this factory assembly line. Everybody gets the same book, the same lecture, the same test. But we're not all the same. We all learn differently at different speeds. So this one-size-fits-all model, it's just not efficient. Let's really break down why this old way of doing things just doesn't cut it. A textbook can't tell when you're stuck on a concept, so it just keeps going. It doesn't care about your personal pace, whether you're zooming ahead or need a little more time. And, maybe most importantly, it has no clue about your retention patterns, when you're most likely to forget something. All this adds up to just inefficient learning. You're working hard, but not smart. But just imagine for a second, what if that wasn't how it had to be? What if your study guide wasn't just static words on a page, but a living, breathing system that actually got to know you? A system that could adapt its entire game plan just for you, right on the fly. And that, my friends, is where the adaptive study coach comes in. The source material calls it a multi-agent learning assistant. Now, let's not get lost in the jargon. The two words to focus on here are multi-agent and completely personalized. This is the answer to that one-size-fits-all problem we were just talking about. So what in the world does multi-agent even mean? Well, instead of one giant AI trying to do everything at once, this system uses a whole team, a coordinated squad of 5 specialized AI agents. Think of it like having your own personal pit crew for your brain, all working together to help you learn better and faster. So let's meet this dream team. First up, you've got the planner, that's your strategist, mapping out the big picture. Then there's the tutor, your personal guide who walks you through the material. The scheduler is your organizer, making sure you review things at the perfect time so you don't forget them. You've also got the evaluator, the analyst, who's constantly looking at the data of how you're doing. And finally, the memory bank, the scorekeeper, tracking every single thing to build a unique profile of you. Okay, so that's the team, a pretty impressive lineup, right? But the real magic, the secret sauce, is in how they all work together. So how does this AI team actually make that personalized experience happen for you? Well, it all happens in this incredible, continuous 5-step loop. First, the planner kicks things off by creating a study plan that's tailor-made for you. Then, the tutor steps in with a quick, focused learning session. As you're doing that, the memory bank is logging your performance. That data goes straight to the scheduler, who then smartly plans your review sessions for exactly when you need them most. And finally, the evaluator crunches all the numbers, figures out your progress, and feeds that info right back to the planner, which then adjusts your plan. It's a cycle that never stops improving. And that's the key takeaway here. This isn't some set-it-and-forget-it plan. No way. It's a living, dynamic learning loop. Every single question you answer, every concept you review, makes the system smarter about how you learn. It's constantly adapting, constantly getting better at teaching you. Okay, this all sounds amazing, I know, but you might be wondering, how does this actually work? What's the tech behind it all? So for anyone who's curious, let's pull back the curtain for just a second and look at what makes this whole thing tick. The source material points to a few really cool things. First is multi-agent orchestration. That's a fancy way of saying there's a really smart system making sure all 5 agents are talking to each other perfectly, like a well-oiled machine. Then there's something called a mock LLM. Now, you've probably heard of LLMs, large language models. They're the brains behind tools like ChatGPT, but they can be expensive to use. This system cleverly uses a simulated one, which means you get all the power, but it's way more accessible to everyone. On top of that, it's got custom tools for grading you, logic to handle long study sessions, and even a built-in simulator to constantly test itself and make sure it's actually working.
And you know, all this tech, all these agents, it all really boils down to this one simple, powerful idea. The point isn't to make you burn yourself out studying harder. The goal is to help you study smarter. It's about making every single minute you spend learning count. Which leaves us with this one really big question to think about. As technology like this gets better and easier to access, are we looking at the actual future of education? A future where every single student has their own AI team, making sure nobody falls behind, and everyone has the tools they need to reach their full potential? That's a pretty powerful thought. Thanks for tuning in.